If I found out tomorrow that my blood pressure was 150/90, there are so many things as a naturopathic physician that I would think about doing first before starting on medication. And that's what this show is all about today. We're going to get into all the different things that we can do to manage blood pressure naturally. So, but maybe we'll start on, what we're seeing in the clinic, what's going on, trends that we're seeing first before we head deep into the blood pressure.
Definitely. I know. Yeah. I catch a lot of high blood pressure in the clinic, and I'm not going to lie. I kind of hate when I do, because then it's like, we have to talk about blood pressure, because it's important, and high blood pressure is going to take precedence over anything else.
Right. So then it sidelines the visit. I think that's the more difficult part of it, is that they're there for
gut health, right?
Yeah, gut health, hormones, hot flashes, and then you're like, oh, well, that's going to take.
And the reason why that happens so much is because oftentimes it's not something you can feel, or it's not, you can't see it, right? So most times people don't actually know that it's going on. So then we're just doing our due diligence, doing our vital signs for patients, right? And then we're like, oh, whoa, did you know that your blood pressure is a little bit elevated? Now, sometimes patients will be like, please don't take my blood pressure. I know.
Right, yes.
I know it's high, and it's going to be high in the doctor's office. So, in terms of like trends and what we see, it's mostly for me that I find it and a patient didn't know they had it. And so then it becomes a big conversation, which is okay. That's what we're here for.
Right.
I would rather I find it than a conventional doctor almost, because then, I have an opportunity with the patient to really talk about the lifestyle pieces before we jump to a medication. Yeah. How do you, is that typically how you find it?
Yeah, that's like so similar to my experience with it, is like, it sidelines a visit, but that's okay. And then, this often can maybe also be more of a motivation potentially for making lifestyle change for patients too. So that's kind of an interesting aspect of it, because when someone has even though they might have high cholesterol and they're overweight, they can be really struggling to make lifestyle changes just because, we're human. And that is not that easy to do. But blood pressure tends to be something that people really take more seriously. I mean, certainly other people can get on a plan and sustain it and everything, but blood pressure seems to be one of those really motivating factors.
I completely agree. And I think it's because we all know somebody with high blood pressure, right? And how that really can be the start of bigger cardiovascular disease, right? We all know that blood pressure can cause kidney damage, liver damage, eye damage, right? And so of course it can affect our hearts. So it can be a strong wake up call for patients, which I totally agree with. The other time patients are coming and talking about blood pressure is if they've been diagnosed with high blood pressure by their primary care doctor and they want to put them on medications, and the patient will say, give me some time to really try and lower this naturally. And their primary care doc will say, okay, you've got 3 to 6 months, but then when you come back, it better be lower. And then they'll find us and they'll say, okay, what do I need to do so that I don't need to go on a medication? Which I love that, right? Because, everyone's on the same page. Their primary care doc has been like, okay, that's fine. They won't necessarily give them any advice on how to do it, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. So, Where do you like to start when it comes to blood pressure? Are you starting with supplements? Are you starting with diet, exercise? Are you educating people about why this is happening? Where do you start?
Yeah, I guess, it depends on the patient. Obviously, if we're already have established these lifestyle changes with recommending exercise and working on dietary management and talking about, lower glycemic foods and dietary, then I would say I might start going into the supplement category for those patients that are already doing some of these things, right? But it may be that we're having a discussion about consistency with these lifestyle habits, right? But one big area, and I know this will be true for you as well, is sleep, and looking at sleep apnea for these patients too, that is going to start setting off some like warning signs for me. If this is someone that when you start asking about sleep and, you know, they are tired and they're snoring and now they have high blood pressure, we're going to go like, okay, does this patient have sleep apnea? Right?
Exactly.
And that's a big, you know, missed diagnosis a lot of times that can be kind of like that triad will really, you know, set off those warning bells.
Yeah, it is true. And, you know, fatigue, like you said, that daytime sleepiness, that daytime fatigue. I mean, we've done episodes on fatigue.
Sure.
There can be so many reasons, but absolutely sleep apnea is a big cause of that. And so we are screening that for patients. And sometimes, you know, I will say, like, does your partner ever tell you you're waking up a lot, you're snoring, you're kind of like almost like gulping or gasping for air? And I definitely have patients who are like, oh yeah, my partner says that. And I'm like, okay, we need a sleep study right now, right? And I think it's also a myth that people think you need to be overweight to have sleep apnea, and that is not true. It can be the anatomy, right? Of your throat, your tonsils, things like that. And so there's a lot at play there. So it is annoying to have a sleep study done, right? Most of my patients are like, please don't make me do that, but it's very important information.
It is for sure. So yeah, but I would say in terms of lifestyle, the big thing, so say it's a new patient and they have elevated blood pressure, then we're really working with diet and exercise, stress management, of course, that plays into all of it. So it's really all the lifestyle habits that we continue to talk about, you know, dietary management for insulin resistance. If we're going to order labs, we're definitely going to do that whole workup there too.
Yep, definitely. And I guess we should also take a step back here and define what high blood pressure is, right? And so this can vary a little bit, but typically really healthy is going to be less than 120 over less than 80, right? So that's ideal. Now, if you're creeping up into the 130s, then it's kind of like, all right, like we're not too concerned yet, but we've got our eyes on it. If that bottom number goes over 90, we get a little, like, we're definitely like, okay, we got to do something here. And then of course, 140s, anything higher than that.
That's like stage 1 and stage 2.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's what we're looking at. Now, we should also talk about the fact that there is white coat hypertension.
100%.
So this is a big deal. And it's funny because some patients are like, I know my blood pressure is high, and doctors offices, please don't measure it. And I'm like, I'm a different type of doctor. I don't make you stress.
Like, it doesn't matter.
Right? Yeah. But that is real. And so if we experience that, I'm always giving patients the opportunity. I say, let's check it at home. When you're in your own environment, you're not as stressed. And I show them how, and I teach them. It's like, okay, feet flat on the floor, sit up nice and tall, put your arm at heart level, make sure it's rested on something, make sure you've been sitting for 5-10 minutes. Don't, you know, go out for a run or go get the mail and then exactly. So
and use a cuff that's doing the upper arm, not of
the
these.
Wrist. And make sure your cuff is the right size. Because if it's too big or too small, that's going to affect the reading as well. So we will have patients do that at home.
Right. So one thing about white coat, a lot of patients will just discount it, and sometimes like, yes, it can be elevated there, but it could be elevated when they're under stress a lot, right? That not only is it you know, just in a doctor's office that it's elevating. That's kind of like a bit of an anomaly. Like all their stressful situations, it's going to elevate too.
Exactly.
Now, if they're not normally under any stress and it's only going to the doctor that stresses them out, okay, now we have like true white coat.
Right.
But if this is happening and this person is stressed in all sorts of situations, they need to check their blood pressure. Like, when they're stressed also. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. A lot of patients will discount it. And I am having that conversation of like, well, no, like we should really still take this seriously. And we do know, like we talk about stress all the time and poor sleep and how much, we just had a whole episode of how stress and sleep affect our glucose. So of course they're going to affect our blood pressure too. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I think for me, one of the main places that I will start with people is movement. And that's because, you know, and maybe I just have a kind of a biased sample of patients. I see a lot of patients for weight loss. But a lot of my patients are just not moving enough. And so they are in that category of being sedentary, which is less than, I think it's technically considered less than 30 minutes of movement or activity daily, or less than 5,000 steps per day is considered sedentary. And I would argue that many Americans fall into that category. I mean, even myself, if I have a day where I am not intentional about moving, like even just if I were to get up, go to work, come home, not really play with the kids, right?
Right.
I would be sedentary.
Totally. You know? And that's what most people are doing, right?
Yeah. So really taking that seriously, because we know that movement is such an easy, I shouldn't say easy, but a simpler approach to really lowering that blood pressure.
Yeah, and it's just going to help on so many different levels, right?
Yeah. And we have data that both strength training and aerobic fitness can lower blood pressure, even just simple walking. Now, if you're doing nothing, start walking, right? That is the easiest, most approachable way. And we do have data that even walking daily, or even just a couple of times per week, will lower that blood pressure.
Right.
Okay.
It's going to take a couple of weeks to see that. So then if they're measuring that at home, if you're watching your blood pressure at home, then, know that it's not going to be down the next day.
No. Exactly. It's going to take a little bit. But likely that's probably not going to be enough, right?
Right.
And we do want to make sure we're getting that heart rate up. So I am kind of recommending, 150 minutes of that more vigorous, moderate intensity cardio work. And this, I know
and that's the threshold that you see in so many studies related to longevity and cardiometabolic health. That's the minimum activity level.
Yeah, it is. And I know that
it's a game changer though.
It is. And that's why it is part of so many guidelines, because we have so much research to back up that number. And I know that we are in a time period of really recommending strength training. And we know that strength training can also reduce blood pressure, but we do see better effects when you get that, that more moderate intensity cardio work in. So we definitely want to do a little bit of both there.
And especially it can be a lot to take on for someone. Oh my gosh, I need to go join a gym, right? When they can literally walk outside and go start this day one, right?
Exactly.
So 100%. I think exercise is so important. It's basically the first step. First check your blood pressure, but you could start, if you're not walking, get going with that.
Exactly. Right? It's approachable. It's easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the workout front?
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job covering that. And then I guess exercise, dietary piece that, but also building in, I think, we've talked about this in some of our insulin resistance reels and episodes and everything about walking after meals too. So you could even have potentially better effects, because when we're thinking about why blood pressure is elevated to begin with, we're thinking about metabolic health, insulin resistance. We know that underlies a lot of this. And so if we can improve that blood sugar response after meals by getting people in the habit of walking, that maybe that you're doing 10 minutes or 15 minutes twice a day, then you got your 30 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. The other really interesting thing about exercise is we do have some research that shows that isometric hold can also help both with blood sugar, but also with blood pressure. And so even doing wall sits, which is when you squat, you just hold a squat against your wall or even above the chair, that can also reduce your blood pressure. And that's a little bit more attainable for some people.
That's amazing.
So, pretty cool data there.
Yep. So I love that. Yep. Especially, sometimes we'll also have patients that maybe have mobility limitations, right? Yeah. They have some sort of injury, a knee, a foot problem or something, and they can't do cardio, and they're even having trouble with the gym. They could maybe do something like that at least.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Okay. So maybe we talk about let's talk about some other really specific lifestyle factors before we get into diet, because once we start on diet, we're going to run out of time.
I know.
We won't get any of the other stuff in there. So we should probably talk about some of the questions we get about alcohol and coffee, I think are probably the two big ones. Yeah, so alcohol.
Okay. My spiel on alcohol has evolved over the years. I used to tell people, okay, moderation is fine. at the end of the day, we know that it's going to increase your blood pressure.
But so backing up, you were saying moderation was fine because the data was kind of saying 2 glasses of wine a day. Cardiologists were saying drink red wine for your blood pressure.
You know, but now my spiel on alcohol is no.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this? And I say this knowing we both drink some alcohol, right? We just said we're going to test all of our alcohol for our continuous glucose monitors. But at the end of the day, I really think Americans normalize alcohol way too much. You know, so often patients come in and they're like, oh, I have, you know, a couple glasses of wine a week, or, you know, I drink socially. I'm like, okay, hold on. What does that mean? Like, what does that actually look like? Because I really think that the majority of Americans drink too much alcohol.
Right. And they're underestimating how much they're drinking
exactly,
as well.
Exactly.
So but then if you're faced with, I have elevated blood pressure, like if I found that out, I would literally cut out, like it's unimportant to me.
Yeah,
I would just cut it out because I know that it could be a contributing factor and it could lower it a few points at least, right?
Yep.
So it's like on the checklist of things to do.
Yes. So red wine is not going to help your blood pressure. That French paradox is proven untrue.
Yes.
When it comes to blood pressure.
Okay. So that's that one.
Yep.
Then we've got caffeine or coffee, which is like, that's interesting,
It
right?
is.
So people can drink coffee and they're drinking it long enough, they have a tolerance basically to it, and it may not be affecting their blood pressure at all.
Exactly.
Right? It does have that, you know, temporary bump up in blood pressure. So that's why if you're taking your blood pressure readings at home, you would take it before you have your coffee in the morning, right? Because it's maybe 3 hours or so, depending. It would depend on how fast you clear the caffeine, right? Genetically.
Yeah. And there's a big, like you said, there's a big genetic component there. And so I have some patients who do find that they are really sensitive to that caffeine, and we have to stop it. But that is not the case for everyone.
Right.
Similarly, salt is like this too, right? There are different physiologic causes of blood pressure, and some are salt sensitive and some are not. So that is kind of a myth in a lot of ways. Like a lot of patients think they need to cut the salt.
And that's the only thing. Like they're just, everybody is kind of really focused on salt and not thinking about all these other factors.
When in reality, you might have a type of hypertension that's not even salt sensitive. So that's something we have to kind of take into consideration as well.
So those are 2 big ones. I don't think there's anything else of those 2 like lifestyle factors. We talked about sleep as well. So now I guess we can devote time to diet a little bit, and then also supplements. We probably want to get those in there.
And what I will also say, we didn't even talk about other kind of root causes of hypertension, but things like poor nitric oxide production, mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, infections, environmental exposures, heavy metals. These can all contribute to high blood pressure as well. So other things to think about besides salt.
Right. Yeah. So then working with a naturopathic doctor, obviously we're going to be thinking about all those things anyway, but I'm glad you brought that up. So foods.
Yes, food, right? Where do we start with food? And I think it kind of depends, right? Because high blood pressure and insulin resistance go so hand in hand, that is often a place where I will start is I'm testing for people for insulin resistance and glucose regulation. And then we're doing all of the basics when it comes to insulin resistance. So watching our carbohydrate portions, focusing on fiber, protein, and fat, right? That type of thing. You know, we just had our last episode all about continuous glucose monitors. So people can check that one out. So that's a lot of the times where I'm starting with that.
Right. So so more of a low glycemic, you know, insulin healthy dietary plan. There's the DASH diet, which has definitely been shown, you know, lower sodium, you know, standard calorie reduction, healthy foods. And then Mediterranean style diets, of course. Like, and that's probably more along the lines of what we would be recommending for helping with insulin resistance, although more modified because we're lowering the carbohydrate portion of a classic Mediterranean diet.
And the reason why the Mediterranean diet is so great is because of all of those rich polyphenols, right? Which are really providing that nitric oxide to open up those blood vessels to help lower blood pressure. So that's a huge reason of why it's helpful.
Love that. Okay, so let's get into a few supplements. What are you often recommending for patients as sort of first line thinking for blood pressure management. I know, of course, it depends on the patient.
It does. And I have a couple of first line supplements. Number one, I'm often reaching for a hibiscus tea. I love the data on hibiscus tea. I love that it forces people to stay hydrated and drink more water. I love that it's inexpensive. And then you're also getting not just the blood pressure lowering effects from the herb, but also the polyphenols.
Yeah.
It also tastes really, really good. And it's like true medicine. I love hibiscus. So I'm often recommending that. Now, some people are like, I don't drink tea.
Right, and they can do it iced. Like I always have that conversation. You can make this into an iced tea really easily.
Yeah, and you could put it in like your whole water bottle, and that's just kind of like what you sip on. Or you could do 3 separate teacups throughout the day, right, with your meal. So it totally depends. There's a lot of ways to do it.
And there are hibiscus hawthorn mixes. That's nice also. So that combination, I love that idea with the tea.
Yes. So hawthorn is something else that I reach for too, especially if I have a patient who has a lot of like emotional stress. There's a big emotional stress component, not sleeping really well. Then I'm more inclined to use hawthorn. But in this case, I'm using it more as a liquid
really
tincture.
strong.
Really strong medicine, a really earthy taste there. But it works so well.
It does.
Also, if there's a palpitation component too, it can be
kind of like an irritable, kind of irritability in the heart. Yeah, that's a great one.
Exactly.
So then the other supplements then to consider, and probably most well known, CoQ10, right? So CoQ10, especially if someone is on a statin medication, they may already be on CoQ10 because that information I think is pretty out there.
Yeah.
But older adults, impaired mitochondrial function, you talked about CoQ10 can lower blood pressure, in my experience and other providers, 5 to 10 points a lot of times on the systolic, right?
And I was looking up data on this. I did a presentation for our clinic last year on hypertension, and there was a meta-analysis of 12 trials. So this is like gold standard.
Yeah.
And over 350,000 people, CoQ10 can lower that top number, systolic, by up to 17 points. And then diastolic by up to 10 points.
Huge.
So that's amazing.
Huge reductions. Yeah.
And the thing we need to remember about CoQ10 is it's a very strong antioxidant. It's very important for our mitochondria and our heart cells. And it gets lowered by a lot of just typical medications that we're on, like statins. Even ACEs and ARBs can lower CoQ10, which are medications.
Right, they're using that they're already taking for blood pressure. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's good.
Yep. And that one's pretty affordable and really easy to take. It's well tolerated. Yeah. Magnesium.
Yes.
Magnesium.
We love magnesium.
Yes.
And it has so many benefits, right? So that's why I love this here if they're not already taking magnesium, because it is a pretty common supplement that patients will be taking, because a lot of them are taking it before they go to bed. Like that's one of the top ones that I'll see, that someone who's new to the office and they're only maybe taking a couple of supplements on their own, they might already be on magnesium, but that's an excellent one. Again, you could see 5 to 10 points.
Yes.
These are all working on different some
pathways.
So some overlap. So that's one thing about supplements. If you read, okay, this one lowers at 5 to 10, this one's 17, this one's don't think that if you take 5 different supplements and they all do 5 that you'll lower at 25 points. Yeah. Right? Because there's so much overlap.
There is. Yeah. Exactly. And it's going to be patient dependent too. Like for some patients, taurine will work so well. Then I've had other patients, taurine doesn't touch their blood pressure.
Yeah.
So, Speaking of taurine, taurine is an amino acid, and it can work really well both for anxiety and for lowering blood pressure. Yeah. So that's one that
so that patient that's more sort of has high blood pressure and is a little bit more nervous system driven, that's kind of a great profile for when I'm thinking about it, right? For taurine, the way we think about it.
Yep. Agreed. Another herb that I really like, we use this herb in a combination product, but it's raffia.
Yes.
So this herb has been studied for a very long time. I think the initial studies go back to like the 1940s, 1950s. We have a lot of data on this. It's an Ayurvedic herb, and that can work very, very well for lowering blood pressure. We use it in a combination product with a lot of other different herbs, but I like that one.
It's a pretty potent one, so I kind of like wouldn't dabble with that on your own.
No, don't dabble with that. Work with an herbalist or a naturopathic provider.
I mean, taking some magnesium, fine. You know, take CoQ10. If you're going to start thinking about raffia, you should be seeing an herbalist or someone that like knows what they're doing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Agreed.
But I love that. Like that formula that we use is so just, you know, it's like putting someone on medication basically when it's needed.
Also a couple of other nutritional components we forgot. Pomegranate juice is great for lowering blood pressure, and then beet juice. So beet powder, beet chews. I love the beet chews. They do have sugar in them, so you got to be careful there. But yes, beets improve that nitric oxide, so they are a phenomenal way to lower blood pressure.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
Good.
And you could put it in a smoothie or something. Just mix it up even in water.
There's also some data on ground flaxseed. This is a little bit trickier because you really do have to get a couple of tablespoons in per day, which for some people can be a little bit tricky. But if we really want to try from a nutrition only approach, we'll do ground flaxseed every day.
And then you're going to have these other benefits from that as well, right? Gut health and everything.
Exactly.
Wow.
Great.
We did it, I think. Do we want to talk about a couple of myths? About blood pressure?
Okay, let's do it.
We covered a lot of these that we had listed here, of course, because we talk so much, but I guess probably one we didn't talk about is once you start medication, you'll always need it.
No.
So, and it depends on the patient, right?
It does, yeah. I have absolutely gotten so many people off of their blood pressure medications, and that is just the best. It's a win for the patient. And, you know, I think a lot of people think when they go to their PCP, their primary care doc, and they put them on, you know, these medications, they think it's the end, like that's it. Oh no, but it's so not true. Your doctor is doing their due diligence and protecting your organs, right?
Yeah.
And protecting your heart. And we can use that to buy time so that we can implement the lifestyle changes. We start to see that blood pressure go down even more. And then we slowly reduce that dose with your provider, right? Who's prescribing, and we can get you off, you know, often, you know? So
absolutely.
That's always really fun to do for patients.
Yeah. The problem that you'll run into would be someone who's like a lot older and has a lot of arterial stiffness. It might be more challenging to get off of, but like all your medication, but maybe you can reduce doses. And a lot of times people are on multiple different medications. Right.
Exactly. So even reducing some of the doses. That's great. I mean, we really did hit all of these. Oh, the salt piece. I do think it's, you know, worth reiterating that it's not always due to salt. Of course, we want to watch the amount of salt, but a lot of our patients have no salt in their diet, right? And so salt is a really good mineral. You know, it's full of minerals, right? And it's an electrolyte. And so we oftentimes need a little bit more salt. But a little patient dependent there.
For sure.
Yeah. Great.
All right. I think we got everything in we intended to. So thanks for joining us for another episode of The Natural Doctors. If you like content like this, you can check out our social media online, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks for joining us.
Like us on Facebook. Search Nutmeg TV.
Adoption is a journey, and in any parenting journey, there are difficult things and there are really great things.
We did our training through DCF and we felt really well trained and well prepared. The social workers become like family.
We love them. They made such a huge impact in our lives. We have gotten so much support and so much love through DCF. You're never prepared for parenthood, but we felt as prepared as we could be. It's a joy that we hope others share as well. If you think that you are ready to foster or adopt, please go to ctfosters.com.